Hi everybody, welcome to Module 1 of the Family Public Policy course. So for Module 1, we are really going to start from the very beginning. We are going to look at what family public policy is, what is a family, how do policies impact families, do we have a comprehensive family policy in this country or not. So we're really starting from the beginning. As you'll see for this week, your readings are really quite minimal. There's not that many readings, and part of that is, the reason for that is because this is the first week. I want you to get familiarized with the topic, familiarized with the syllabus, and with our Canvas site as well. So again, the readings this week will not be that much. They will pick up a little bit as we move through the subsequent weeks. So let's get started. We are on our home page here that you can see. Again, to get to Module 1, we just scroll to the very bottom. We click on Module 1, what is family policy? When you open this page, you will again see just that this week we're looking at what constitutes a family, what is family policy, and do we have a comprehensive or a fractured family policy? Then you'll also see right here the link to this lecture, which you have clearly clicked on. This is just the PowerPoint that I'm going to be using throughout this lecture, so that way if you wanted to just access the PowerPoint later without my face in it, you can certainly do that, and you can review the PowerPoint at your leisure without, again, watching the video with it. And then again this week you will have to read chapters 1 and 2 in your textbook. And then based on these materials you will complete a discussion board and a quiz, and they are due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So what I'd like to do with you now is go ahead and look at our PowerPoint. So again, the first thing we want to talk about is what really is family policy? What is family? And I am going to move my face over to the bottom for now. There we go. So that you can see what we're talking about a little bit better. So again, what is family? There really, surprisingly, is not a universal definition of family. And people tend to change the definition of family depending on what type of policy or program they are trying to pass. So that is a little bit disturbing that we don't have that universal definition. But as this author, Karen Bogenschneider, she defines it as not a universally defined entity, but rather a collection of people. So again, 2 or more people can create a family that can be identified by its structural connection, whether that's blood relations, legal ties, or residential ties, or by its functional connection, so sharing economic resources or caring for its members who are young, elderly, ill, or have disabilities. And again, Karen also specifies that the preferred definition of family often changes and depends on that person's intent in terms of policy development. Family structure has very much been changing and evolving over time. It used to be that when people thought about family structure, they would envision a husband, wife, and children. That is not the case. Certainly there are many different family structures out there. That would include, for instance, a same-sex couple with or without children, or you might have a couple who's caring for an elderly parent. You might have a grandparent who's caring for his or her grandchildren as the primary caregiver. So there are a lot of family structures out there that we need to be aware of and that are being impacted by policies. When we think about family policy is really a policy that tries to protect families, that tries to strengthen families, and that might be by focusing on family formation, partnership support, economic support, child rearing, and caregiving. Those are the 5 explicit functions that policies may seek to address. When we examine policies, we need to look at the family impact analysis. This is a type of policy analysis that's outlined in Chapter 2 of your textbook, so you will get to read about that. Really, the goal of family impact analysis is to look at how policies impact the stability of families, how policies impact family relationships, how they impact family members' abilities to carry out their responsibility. And it goes beyond looking at what's the intent of a policy. It also looks at what are some of the unintentional consequences of this policy. What are some of the negative consequences for families? So it's very important when we analyze policies to not just look at the intended consequences, but to also look at the unintended consequences. On this slide, I'm asking, do we in our country here in the United States, do we have one comprehensive, overarching family policy? So is there one big mega policy that impacts families? And the answer to that question is no, absolutely not. We do not have one comprehensive policy that if you know that policy, you know every policy that impacts families. It's quite different than that, actually. In our country, we have tons and tons of policies that all impact families. And so it can get very challenging to navigate because that means that you need to be familiar with tons and tons of different policies in order to be better able to navigate the system. So again, there are many, many different policies in this country that impact families. And it can be challenging for people to know how to navigate all of those policies. So what we're going to do, since families we've established now, I'm going to move my face up again a little bit so you guys can see better, covering up the cute old man. So since families can consist of both children, adults, and elderly individuals, and since policies can impact people at each of those stages in the life cycle, and they can impact people differently, and there are different policies that impact each age group. So what we're going to do in this class is we're going to examine some of those family policies that impact people at different stages of the life cycle. And again, the reason why we're looking at it in this fashion is because there isn't one big overarching policy that impacts the family as a whole. Rather, we have this fractured system of a bunch of different policies that impact people. So what I've done in this course is I've broken it down into policies that primarily impact kids, policies that primarily impact adults, and policies that primarily impact the elderly. Now, certainly some of these policies impact people in all of the age groups, not just in the one where I grouped it. But in order to have a good flow, this is the breakdown that I've chosen. In addition, I want to point out that even though there are, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 11 policies that we'll be reviewing over the course of this class, there are many, many more. So what I tried to do was choose the main policies that I feel are important for social workers to be aware of as they work in the field. Policies that likely will impact the clients that they work with in the future. So for kids, we're going to focus on Medicaid and CHIP. We're going to focus on the National School Lunch Program, and we're going to focus on the Women, Infants, and Children Program. For adults, we'll focus on the Affordable Care Act, the SNAP program, Temporary Aid to Needy Families, Violence Against Women Act, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, Same-Sex Marriage Policy, and then for the elderly, we'll look at Medicare and Supplemental Security Income. So those are the policies that we will be reviewing over the course of this semester, this 5-week semester. Also, if you'll notice, and I'd like to point this out, and the book does a great job explaining this too, is when you think about the definition of family policy, how is family policy different from just policy? And as you'll see, the authors of the book point this out too, there really is no difference. Because essentially all policies out there either directly or indirectly impact families. So in this class, really what we're looking at is just policy in general, but specifically looking at how policies impact families. So again, when you think of family policy, don't think that it's some alien entity that's very different from just policy. It's not. Family policy and policy are identical to one another. It's just that we're using the lens of family to examine these policies during this course. Okay, so again, for this module, what you're going to be doing is you'll be reading chapters 1 and 2 in the textbook, and then you will complete a discussion board and a quiz. All of the information that you need can be accessed through our Canvas site. So let me get rid of the PowerPoint. Again, this is where you access the discussion board and the quiz, and of course you will need your textbook in order to read chapters 1 and 2. The assignments for this week are due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. As usual, if you have any questions for me, then please feel free to let me know. Have a wonderful first week in this course. Bye!